What's the weirdest thing you have ever walked in on? While working in the ER, some patient got a sex toy lost up in the rectum. Instead of surgery, the ER doctor attempted to remove it. He is an experienced ER doctor, probably 30 plus years in the ER, and has seen/done everything. He'd save the patient from surgery and would be able to leave that night. The patient sedated with pretty powerful sedatives, proper fulfway, and the procedure began. I'm down the hall, and I hear screaming, so I briskly jog over to the room and walk in. What I see is a 70-year-old doctor past elbow deep in some man's rectum. It looks like he was a ventriloquist with a 200-pound doll performing a horror show. The man was screaming in a half stupor. He wasn't conscious, but he certainly wasn't unconscious. The doctor was yelling more propofol, push it now. The patient ended up going to surgery to get the sex toy removed. Younger brother had a chapped butthole and my mom was powdering it for him. He was not a baby. How do you even get a chapped butthole? IDK. Aggressive wiping? Regardless, I still to this day knock on every closed door in a house before walking through. As someone with bowel problems, chapped booty holes are my bane. Almost always from really clingy shits that you basically wipe away layer by layer and leaves your butthole a sandpaper disaster. Edit. I'm shocked and disturbed at the fanfare my brown plaster booty hole is getting. At a party with a bunch of friends. Door to the living room is closed. Open door. Half of my friends in attendance are engaged in a wild orgy. Closed door. Host of the party walks by, looking really annoyed. I think he's going to put a halt to the proceedings, but he just opens the door and tosses a box of condoms into the room and closes the door again. Before the beginning of my second year of college, my roommate transferred to another university and housing replaced him with some random transfer. He ended up being a total pain in the ass who would play on his Xbox in the room at 3 AM while I was trying to sleep, while even talking into his mic, set multiple alarms at 4 AM and not get up, etc. After a pretty intense argument at 5 AM, I spent the week couch surfing. I had several midterms that week and needed my sleep and began looking for somewhere else to live. Fortunately, there was an empty room in another dorm and I made the arrangements to change rooms. I spent the night in my new room and walked over to my old dorm the next morning to move out before heading home for fall break. I was nervous about my old roommate causing a scene, especially since my mom was coming down to help me move and take me back home. Instead, I walked in on him standing over my bed, masturbating over my Arduino kit and differential equations notebook. I work in a hotel, and a guest asked for a coffee maker to be brought up as we didn't have them in every room. I knocked on the door a couple of times, as we're supposed to do, and didn't hear a response, so I cracked the door open a bit to see a stark naked man with one of those leather looking dog masks. I just froze for what felt like 8 minutes and closed the door. I just left the coffee maker outside the room. Writing that last part reminded me of this, so I guess my reply is a bit of a 2-for-1 special. I walked into the employee bathroom, which do lock, so if the handle turns I assume it's free and clear, once, and walked in on a coworker completely naked, sitting on the toilet with all their clothes strewn about the bathroom floor. He and I haven't made eye contact in about a month and a half. My son trying to look at his butthole with a webcam. I have 8 siblings, so I've seen far too many things I wish I'd never seen. The first one that comes to mind is the time I went into the kitchen and my little brother was on all fours, wearing nothing but a pink belt around his midsection and a pair of my mother's shoes, face down in the cat's food dish, eating its food. My mom walked in on my friend and I playing with each other's boobs. Not in a sexual way. We were laying on our sides and noticed our boobs got all squished. So we stuck a hand in between each other's and made them clap. Mom walked in, saw us, and said okay then. I tried to explain and she put her hand up and said, I don't even want to know. Then she shut the door and walked out. When I was a kid we had a family reunion in Oklahoma for a few days. One night, I got tired of laying awake in my sleeping bag and went to find my cousins. They were crowded around a dead snake, as one of the older girls was mid-dissection. There was blood everywhere, considering they had just recently killed the snake and the muscles were still twitching. She told me she had done this a million times and was practicing for when she became a vet. I just went back inside. Probably my dad blow drying his pubes in the mirror. My mom absolutely lost it cracking up, and I can never get the image out of my brain, no matter how hard I try. Walked in on a girl's father standing idly in front of the refrigerator in nothing but a pair of aged white briefs. I was 16 and not very socially experienced, particularly regarding dads in underwear, so I panicked and held up my hand to shield my own view and said something like, "Ayuh," and walked back into the garage. Her parents made me go home, and I never went back to her house again. When I was 11 or 12 I walked in on my older brother masturbating. His back was turned so luckily all I saw was his ass. As I walked in on him, I saw his mattress falling back into place, so being the curious child I was, I went to see what was under his mattress on a later day when he wasn't home. I was hoping for porn, cause growing up in the 90s in a religious household meant it was super hard to come by, but no. What I found was much worse. I found about 4 dozen little zip-top snack baggies full of cum. Edit. Thanks for the gold, you sick bastard. I'm glad my brother's shame is worth something on Reddit. Walked into a classroom and found out that a 13-year-old had my staff photo as his desktop picture. This was way back when my siblings and I still lived with our parents. I once walked in on my sister, who had just gotten out of the shower. Everything was chill until the dildo she had just been using fell out of her vagina. She later told me she didn't have enough time to hide it. The only thing I could think to say was I'm scarred for life and I ran out. Edit. For all of you sickers in the comments, I'm female too. We shared a room. Yes, she was wearing a towel. 2 intoxicated homeless folks, male and female, fucking underneath the tree on the college campus I work security at. It probably could have been narrated by David Attenborough for how raw and wild it was. One night me and my roommate watched Tenacious D and the Pick of Destiny, and we specifically laughed at how funny the cock push-ups were. A few days later I walk into the dorm and his pants are down and he's flat on his belly with his arms reaching forward Superman style. He gets startled and nervously yells, "Oh hey, what's up?" and pulls up his pants. Pretty sure he was attempting cock push-ups. Boy, do I have a good one. My mom and I had a huge joint party for our 15th and 50th birthdays with tons of our friends over at our apartment's clubhouse. I left the main scene to take some of my pals up to my room to show them my pet guinea pig, Squeakers. I opened the front door to my apartment with my friends in tow and opened it without knocking because hey, it was my fucking house. To my surprise, when I walked in, the living room was full of buck-ass nude old ladies. Now, I knew that my mom had joked about getting her friends together to take calendar girls pictures for her 50th. I did not know that this was the appointed time and place for said photo shoot. But there they were. My mom and her best friends, some of whom were moms of friends, one of whom was my former teacher, in their birthday suits carrying around big fake flowers and feather boas and cupcakes and shit, taking pictures of each other. Not a bra nor panty in sight. I stood there dumbstruck for a second when one of the ladies waved at us and called out, "Oh hi there girls. Come on in." I made a weird panicked noise, slammed the door, and sat on my welcome mat paralyzed with a hysterical uncontrollable laughing fit for like 5 minutes. It's not that I have a problem with various people's naked moms in my living room, but it was a hell of a surprise. My friends thought it was hilarious for a while and then shut up about it. But all of those ladies apologized to me for that incident for years. Like, let it die gals. I don't need to be actively reminded of that moment every time we meet. When my kids were very young, 4 and 3 years old, I would bathe them together. One day I left the room for a minute, and on my way back I could hear cackling laughter coming from the bathroom. I sneak up to the door and see the 4-year-old on all fours, pointing his butt at the 3-year-old, who was behind him with his index finger extended, as if he was going to poke his brother right in the butthole. The 4-year-old said, "Go on," touch it, and as the 3-year-old moved his finger closer, the 4-year-old farted. They both cackled like mad. They didn't bathe together after that. Edit, bath to bathe.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like and subscribe. Comment down your thoughts and I'll see you next time.